Hi, welcome to Into the Studio. This is the part where you usually say something funny, but like we talk about music and about gay people and about mostly trans and non-binary people.
Nylon's
You know
not
what we
funny.
do. I'm very funny, thank you.
To be a mountain instead of a molehill of a man walking his shoes and have those pretty hands.
So yeah, we're talking about a very good friend of ours. We love him. His name is Baz, but he also goes under the artist name Moon Bxy, but boy is spelled with an X. You also might know him on TikTok because he's very prominent on TikTok and makes a lot of TikTok content under the username Princess X Boy. Baz is a trans guy. He makes a lot of TikTok content, like I was saying, about like trans stuff and a lot of.
And he has a closet that makes me really jealous.
Oh my god, Baz's outfits! I love him.
But
I love his clothes. I'm just kind of.
But anyway, enough fanboying over Baz. We need to actually talk about his music.
Love you, Baz.
Hurts.
Yeah, so let's jump right into his song Peach.
Peach was a single released in 2020. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, all that stuff. But the song like appears to be discussing and kind of like diving into the relationship Baz has with toxic masculinity. And throughout the song, you can like see like he's constantly being told to toughen up or get a grip. Tragic phrases that are thrown around.
Yep. Oh my god, this just reminded me of something when I came out as like trans mask in high school, and like you can see this a lot in the trans mask community where people are be like, oh well, you're trying to be a man, like you shouldn't cry, you shouldn't wear makeup, you shouldn't paint your nails and all that. But there was a kid in my high school who straight up told me to punch myself in the face if I was really a guy because I wouldn't be having a mental breakdown if I was, and I was like. Oh, but so toxic masculinity has a very prominent place within the trans community.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was saying. Like, I feel like as like any trans masculine person does, like there's a really unique line that we all kind of like fall into in relationship wise to masculinity. One, there's like trans men, but there's like non-binary trans people like me who come from being trans men. I kind of like was able to go through the tradition of being like a toxic man to be like, whoa, hold on there, buddy. Like, especially because I grew up in the Midwest. Whoa.
You grew up in misery.
You're gonna leak my location. No. But as I found out, I've grown up in a Southern family, regardless of whether the Midwest or not. And of course, that comes with like really traditional like toxic like gender roles, which a lot of trans masculine folks kind of fall into. It's almost like the I'm gonna prove that I'm a man, I'm gonna prove to you and to me and to my mom and to like my dog that I'm a man by doing like these super traditionally masculine things that aren't they're masculine for no reason. Like hit yourself in the face if you like are a man because you won't have a mental breakdown, as if men can't feel things. And like again, when it comes back to this in the song Peach, it's almost like somebody else is telling Baz. It's not like internal all the time. Like it's somebody else telling you, if you're a man, you should do this. And even when I came out as non-binary, I was man enough to a lot of people where they were like completely ignore the fact that I wasn't a man. They're like, if you're a man, we can throw hands right now.
Like I'm not a trans man like Baz is, but I am trans masculine, and I originally came out as a trans man back in high school because I didn't know that there was like, you know, more genders. And I had like a very cringe toxic masculine phase where like I was dressing like super mask, like I was getting into fights. I was like very much like I identified as like a straight man. both you and I can relate that like I'll still get misgendered as a woman. I don't know how.
All these chin hairs.
Yeah.
Zoom in.
But like I like even over the phone, like y'all can hear my voice, I still get misgendered as a woman, which I will never understand.
But again, it comes from like somebody else's perspective.
Yeah.
Which is again like Peach is all about somebody else's perspective of Baz. I'm gonna assume it's Baz. I don't think he's talking about some other random trans masculine person, but like it's a pretty mirrored experience across the board. But like again, Peach, the song is called Peach. The fruit does come up. What do you think about when you think about peaches?
fruit.
Like, I hate you. But generally, like, when you think of, like the word peach, like, oh, she's a peach. You think of somebody who's sweet and gentle, but possibly somebody who's kind of fragile, someone who can get hurt easily. So the line, you bruise just like a peach, which in the song is followed by you cling like a leech, is like super reminiscent of you're too sensitive, you're too fragile, you have too many emotions, like you're getting hurt too easily, and you cling like a leech. You're clinging on to someone or something for comfort or for whatever need you need fulfilled. You're clinging to them and you're weak.
Yeah, I don't
like that.
I don't like the implication in like toxic masculinity that being clingy automatically means you're weak, or like being emotional automatically means you're weak, because like what?
Yeah.
I really don't like it. But yeah.
And like these songs are like relatively short, but like he packs so much into like so few words. Like, mwah, chef's kiss, right?
Chef's kiss.
Yes, but like earlier in the song for Peach, there's a line like forgetting how to breathe and like choking because you can't breathe. Not for any other reason other than you literally just forgot how. And I forgot my lungs were made for more than just inhaling smoke. Please remind me of this sometimes, because otherwise I'd begin to choke. We either assume that Baz is a smoker or that this is a metaphor for inhaling so much toxic masculinity or so much toxicity around you in general that you literally forget there's clean, fresh air, or like, as is referencing, a good, healthy space for you to be in and to thrive.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like
right next door.
Yeah, I feel like it does go two ways of interpretation depending on how you're looking at it, which could either be like, because a lot of people like self-medicate with like weed and stuff like that, which like can be very reliant, but
especially if you're not followed by a therapist, you could be self-medicating yourself too much to the point where like at that point you're just drowning things out and not coping.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially like trans men, like younger trans men, they tend to fall into like this really nasty mindset of toxic masculinity that like it really, like, using the same metaphor that Baz is, like, it chokes the entire community up.
It's okay. You can say Calvin Garris stands.
No, we'll get attacked. We'll get doxxed. But yeah, like, usually as like those folks get older, they kind of realize how much smoke they've actually been breathing in, and that's all it is. It's like smoke. It's like a lot of talk, but like a lot of toxic masculinity does like negatively impact a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, like
there's a second where people realize they can stop breathing in the smoke and they can go outside and have fresh air, or like have like a loving community waiting with open arms to support them in every way.
Yes.
But
there's so many people who have, like, again, like going back to like Calvin Guerra, who grew up on his videos and partook in this toxic trans medicalism and like toxic masculinity, who are now like, wow, that's really gross of me to do. I'm gonna not do that anymore.
And I really feel like the kids are doing it because like they're immature. They're latching onto something that feels secure, which is toxic masculinity, which is pretty set in stone, I guess. It's a pretty stable thing to latch onto for a lot of people, regardless if it's a good thing. So they get sucked right in to try and prove that they are men, even though they literally don't have to.
It becomes more about, like, in the trans community, appealing to cis people rather than living authentically. But yeah,
the theme is gender today, if you can't tell.
So let's talk about gender envy, because that's
gender.
Interesting. So if you don't know what gender envy is, if you're not a part of the trans community, it's like this feeling that trans people, what they get about, like, envious basically of their gender when they see someone who like looks a certain way, or like sees something that looks a certain way, because I know a lot of non-binary people get like gender envy from like Shy Guy from Mario, including me. I will out myself like that.
Generally speaking, though, I'm pretty sure it's like, I don't want to say comorbid, interchangeable with the term transition goals, roughly, because it's always like, I want to look like that person, right?
Yeah.
And like the goal person can be like cis or trans, that doesn't matter, but like generally you're only going to see trans people using the term gender envy, though I did find an Urban Dictionary definition that specifically oh my god, let me just read this out. It's a term specifically about transness and for trans and non-binary people. An Urban Dictionary definition specifically mentions not what a cis person sees when they look at, and then I redacted the Minecraft YouTuber, but it was a Minecraft YouTuber. It was really funny.
Is it Dream?
I want to know.
I need to know if it's Dream.
It wasn't. Oh.
Yeah, so like gender envy is like just a thing in the community where you're just kind of like, you give me gender envy, like major gender envy right here.
Look, there's a lot of people doing it out of fun. Like, it's a fun little thing that, like, it's in the community to do, right? A little game.
I want to look like Shy Guy from Mario.
Why haven't you cosplayed him yet?
I need to. I was gonna be for Halloween, but then I was Chris from Deltarune, so.
Well, that's your own fault. But anyway, as fun as it can be, gender envy comes from, I mean, like, to a lot of people at least, it comes from, like, this really hard place to be in. I'm just gonna read the line straight out of the song, just to, like, give like a vibe, right? And I've been cursed with this body I'll never get used to, and I will spend the rest of my life stuck in the shell that I will decorate and desperately want to be anything else. It's a really beautiful song, but it's really sad.
Dysphoria.
Yeah.
We didn't. Okay, so like, if you also are not a part of the trans community, dysphoria is like basically the.
When you have the incongruence between your gender and like your expected physical presentation or your genitalia, but that it causes you distress in a sense. Like,
yeah, dysphoria is like the opposite of gender euphoria. Where like gender dysphoria is like specifically distress, and gender euphoria is like, this makes me feel good. I just also want to put it out there. You don't need dysphoria to be trans.
Whoa.
I am gonna just put that out. With trans people, like especially with specifically dysphoric trans people, there can be this sense of like your body's never gonna feel like yours, so you're kind of like making do and like doing anything you can to feel comfortable with what you have. Because like surgeries are not always accessible, like neither is like hormones, or they're not always accessible. It's again like going back to the line, I will spend the rest of my life stuck in the shell that I will decorate and desperately want to be anything else.
And I also feel like the narrative that the only reason trans people are trans is because they're in the wrong body, as a widespread social narrative, it kind of sets a lot of trans people up to become incredibly dysphoric. And in order to be like real trans, in quotes, they have to hate their body. And I don't think you guys see me sitting over here hating my body.
Yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, you don't need dysphoria to be trans. You don't need to hate yourself to be trans. Like, you're just
trans.
The only thing you need to be trans is to be trans.
Literally. Again, like, it's true for some people where they like generally are so sick with their body that it is hurting them and they're dysphoric about it. But like, I feel like the narrative that you have to be born in the wrong body is like what sets that up to be so much worse.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those phrases that was made specifically to digest trans people for cis people.
And then also like for insurance, stuff like that, right?
There's some news segment out there where I was told, like somewhere on the internet, where I was told to literally say like, oh, I was a man trapped in a girl's body. Like, I never ever felt that way, and I just told people that so I could get like access to my medical care.
Yeah, because like if you guys don't know, and I'm sure if you're trans, you're watching this, you know, trans healthcare is incredibly gatekept. In some places, if you don't fit the model to a T, you will be on waiting list for like 6 years, and then get there, and then get nowhere.
Specifically for America, if you're a minor trying to get access to trans healthcare, chances are you need a therapist who needs to diagnose you with gender dysphoria. If you're over 18, you can go to like informed consent places and stuff like that. But
even then, like, I went through an informed consent place, and I apparently got lucky, and a bunch of kids are going to informed consent places the second they turn 18, and bam, they don't know anything that's happening to their body once they're on hormones, which is so sad. But like, it's one of those where there's a lot of information that is locked behind doors that people can't access, and then there's a lot of information that literally just isn't there because there is no research, because people are transphobic and don't want to learn about trans people. Basically, self-love is really hard, but it's way harder when you have yourself and like the whole world breathing down your neck. It's a lot of pressure, and it's more pressure than anyone should ever normally have to face. And there's also this expectation for trans people to be like act or look or sound a certain way.
It's weird because it's the cis doctors and everything, like with trans healthcare, especially in America. Oh, I remember my point. Wow.
Get it?
Where I was gonna say that in order for me to gain healthcare, I had to get diagnosed by a gender therapist, right?
You also had to lie. A lot of people lie to the therapist.
Yeah, a lot of people have to lie, including me, to my therapist, in the sense that on how bad dysphoria was. Because like I wanted top surgery, but I never was dysphoric about my chest. But in order for me to get the letter approved for my top surgery, I had to basically be like, yeah, no, my chest makes me suicidal. My chest makes me want to die. Like all this. When it didn't, like I just wanted top surgery because I knew it was going to make me feel good. Like,
and it's like the extreme, which is why like I'm so cautious around the term gender envy. And again, like this is like a song about Bass's own personal feelings about it, right? Which is obviously like his own feelings. And I just want to reiterate, like gender envy in itself is not a bad term. It's just I feel like it's misused a lot. Especially when a lot of people who use the term gender envy, it's always about white, skinny, tired-looking men. I don't know if you guys see the little trend going on, but you guys can have different genders than a skinny little white man.
I think that's all for the side effect of like social media is that it's
Yeah.
all white, skinny, AFAB trans people who are like the
Me.
dominating.
It's me. You can say me.
Oh yes, you are a white, skinny AFAB
I'm
person.
so predictable. Please, somebody swap genders with me.
I think you were gonna say someone swab me. I was like, COVID test.
Yeah, COVID test.
But yeah, gender envy again, like short song, but Baz, he really did paint like a very large picture with what he had written.
And speaking of pictures, the song literally opens up with him wanting to crawl inside somebody's skin. A little creepy, but it really has like the impact of like how desperate a lot of trans people are, or how they can be, and how bad this dysphoria can be, that they are quite literally like making references to using somebody else's skin and wearing it to hide themselves.
Or just like feeling honestly that like someone else's skin is on top of you because you don't recognize yourself.
So it's like you might as well have one that you want, right? And like obviously there's a million and one songs called gender envy about the same thing, because trans people. But the one other one that I found like briefly also opened up with wanting to use somebody else, like to like not swap places with them, but to literally become them. I don't know. People get like
me
really
with every anime protagonist. I want to be
But, like,
them.
like Bam said, or like Matt said, both names. It doesn't have a whole lot word wise in this song, Gender Envy, but like there's so the words that he chose, the way he put them together, everything about the song, regardless of how short it is, gets across the point of how harmful gender envy can be to somebody, because it's always the focus on like I want to look like them instead of like I want to like myself, which again, like in our last episode or our next episode, all of our episodes basically about self-love.
I mean, yes.
All of them about self-love. That is the message for today.
Love yourself aggressively.
Yeah, a message for the next 3 years.
Only 3 years.
Yes.
But yeah, with Baz, Baz only has like 2 songs out at the moment,
Which is Peach and Gender Envy.
which is
Go
still
listen.
fantastic.
Please.
But he's set to release an EP in January of 2022, so who knows what's gonna happen? It'll be a surprise. Once again, oh my god, it's almost 2022. But
Literally, as we're recording December 8th, you guys will be seeing this whenever, and then we are halfway through the month of December, and we have like 2 weeks till New Year's. My brain froze thinking about that.
I have to buy my Christmas presents.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so
Hopefully we'll get him back on here for his recap when he becomes like big music man.
yeah, so speaking of literally Baz, let's cut to his interview with us. It'll be a fantastic time.
Hi, Baz. Well, thank you for like being on our podcast, and I'm so happy that we get to talk about your music. So,
thank you.
yeah.
I'm very, very excited.
Yay! Okay, so we have a few questions we wrote down. So the first one is straight to the point. Why music? Like, why? What got you into music? Like, why?
The origin story. Okay. So, I don't know. It's always been music. Like, there's just like I've always like I remember. So when I was a kid, like I grew up with like musical parents, and so I was always like surrounded by music. And like both my mom and my dad played guitar. My dad wrote music. Fun fact: I thought my dad wrote Wonderwall for a very long time because my dad used to play Wonderwall all of the time, and I was like, that's my dad's. But so yeah, I kind of just like was surrounded by music. I always liked singing and like felt very drawn to like anything music related. And then like I think like when I was a kid, I used to make up songs. Like I just would make up songs. I feel like that's the thing kids do. They just like they're making up songs about doing whatever they're doing.
Right.
And then around like I remember like wanting to be like a musician at some point. It just like clicked in my brain. I was like, I want to make music. I want to be a musician. I can't pinpoint exactly when that happened, but when I was like 11, I watched Taylor Swift's Journey to Fearless documentary.
Yes.
And I watched it and I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. I want to make music, like for sure. I know in my head, because I grew up listening to her music and was like, wow, I just love the way she portrays a story and like expresses herself. And I want to do that. And so when I was 11, I was like, after watching that, I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to play guitar. I'm going to do it. So then I literally like would just sit, and my dad has I learned how to play on my dad's guitar. My dad's guitar was like a really big ovation with a curved back. And I'm very small, and 11-year-old me was even smaller than I was. So it literally was like oversized. And I was just like teaching myself how to play guitar on it. And I just started writing music. And it was just like, it's that thing where like it's hard to explain like why music or when it just happened. I feel like it was just like so cheesy to be like, it was just meant to be, but like, I don't know why my brain was just like, music is how you're going to express yourself. Like, this is what you need to do to tell people how you're feeling and like tell your stories and make art and like express yourself and things like that. And then once I started learning how to play guitar and like learning how to play other people's songs, I was like, I'm going to write my own music. And then I just kind of started writing my own music and was like, oh, this is really, really fun. This is like my favorite thing in the whole world. It feels so good. And like, it's like, it's just so incredible. I don't know. I'm very random.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 3 says TikTok fame, skateboarding, the queer dream. what do you do besides music?
Yeah, because like you're not on a lot of social media, right? I mostly know you from TikTok, and then you're doing all kinds of stuff on there. So like,
yeah. So like, other than music, it's really weird. I don't know. My social media is so interesting because I feel like a lot of my social media doesn't like necessarily focus on like my music as much, even though I try to do it, but algorithms kind of suck. And so algorithms will be like, oh, sorry, we're only going to boost any content that isn't related to your art. But yeah. Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
yeah.
So like, what do you do besides?
Okay,
music?
yes.
Like,
yes. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I do TikTok. I really like TikTok. TikTok's like, I think my favorite platform because it's really easy to just like sit down and like just decide to be like, I'm gonna make a TikTok and like just kind of like spew whatever's in my brain at the moment. It feels very like free and like kind of like it's one of those places where I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna do like something random and creative and whatever's on my mind. And I did YouTube for like a really long time. And I also had a Tumblr. And so like I did that. And I had like a kind of like decently-ish, it was my first like touch into social media because I made a video because I identified as gender fluid when I like first came out, and then like had the transitionary period of like identifying with different labels into like trans man fit. And I had made a coming out video, and it got like 100,000 views on it when I was like 15, which was like crazy because I was 15.
Yeah.
And then I like kind of just started like being like, oh, people like hearing me talk about like my stories and like just my experience in life. So yeah, like I did social media, and then that like kind of branched into like doing Instagram and doing TikTok, and like it's just like kind of like been like a continuous wave of kind of doing that sort of stuff. And then yeah, I do skateboarding. I love skateboarding. I definitely don't get to do it as much because I live in Portland. So like and then I don't know what else do I do other than music. I make a lot of art. I think like I just like making art. I like making physical art, like doodling, drawing. I like writing. That I like do writing outside of like music writing, so like poetry or just like general like story stuff. I like to dance. I love dancing. Dancing feels good, which I also feel like intertwines with music because it's like that thing where it's like it's another way of experiencing music and expressing yourself, but like physically instead of like verbally.
So like along that kind of like vein of questioning, we know we have some other trans folks who are like branching out into like filmmaking or like other things like that. And I know you mentioned art and dancing.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like secret like that, like you're hiding? Where you like you can't think of it?
Secretly hiding or like secret like projects or things that I like to do. Oh, I'm kind of low-key working on writing a novel, like like a little bit. I've had a concept because I wrote a lot. Wrote. That's the grammatical term. I wrote a lot. Yeah, I wrote a lot when I was a kid. I loved like creative story writing and stuff like that. And so like I think that also helped me with songwriting because like I like was so into words when I was a kid. So right now I'm kind of like working on a novel project, which I think I'm going to focus on like next year. Because I like writing in like nonfiction, not nonfiction. Wow, fiction. I love writing like fiction, and I love writing fantasy. But the one I'm working on isn't fantasy related. It's like real life, like trans like high schoolers, and like talking about like trans experience, and like I have a lot of like thoughts and feelings on like passing culture and things like that. And I think that would be a topic that would be interesting to try to talk about and explain in like a plot sense through like a YA novel.
Cool. I know that you are playing your first live show in like what, 5 years? So
yes. Oh my God. It's so soon. It's in 8 days. I'm like ecstatically excited because I have literally haven't performed in 5 years. Last time I performed was 2017.
Wow.
And that was like before I came out as a trans man and before I was on T. Like it's been a long ass time. And I'm excited because it's like going to be a very like kind of like intimate cafe setting. So it's going to be like kind of like chill, which is good. And a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm going to come, which is exciting, but also like nerve wracking because I'm like, I know the first like few songs I'm going to be so fucking scared. I'm going to be so nervous.
You have to like play a song everybody can sing along to, so you can
yeah
do the work.
I planned it out, so I'm gonna have my my opening song, which is kind of like my practice song, which is what I normally play whenever people are like, oh, play me something, is I play First Day of My Life by Bright Eyes because it was like one of the first songs I ever learned on guitar. Most people know that song. It's like really easy to sing. It's not hard. So I'm like, okay, that's going to be like my nerve, like getting over my nerve song. So then when we go into my music, hopefully I'm not like nervous and like shaking and like mumbling.
Like I have a friend who's kind of similar where whenever they feel really uncomfortable in their show, the next song they automatically go to is Mr. Brightside.
Yes!
Everyone to just be like, yo.
Yes. Yeah, that's so good. I'm also going to be doing other than my music, I'm also going to do Last Christmas by Wham because my gig is on the 20th. So it's like, you know, I'm like, okay,
perfect.
Yes.
Slip one Christmas song, one gay Christmas song in there. So, you know. Yes.
Yeah, and I was speaking of music still. You have a song. One is about toxic masculinity, and
yes,
one's more about like your own gender envy towards somebody. Was the song gender envy specific towards one person that you were envious of?
Okay, so yes and no in a way of like I have this thing where like I love being trans. Like being trans is fucking incredible. I think that trans people have this view on the world that is so like much more complex and like I don't know, like we just like understand things in a way that like cis people just like wouldn't get. Like you'd have to sit down and like sit with them and be like, okay. But when I go out into the world, I often see like guys and I'm like, I want to look like you so bad. Like literally like I get like this like actually like not like angry, but there's just like this feeling in my chest where I'm like, I wish I looked like you. It's also the gay thing though, where I'm like, do I want to date you or do I want to look like you? Which I think I also tried to convey in that song because that song was also about like, I have the trans gay experience of meeting people being like, wow, you're literally like so fucking gorgeous. And also being like, oh, like I get, do I want to date you? Do I want to be you? Do I want both? Like that's, I feel like that's a very universal trans experience.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can relate to that.
Yeah. So I feel like in some ways it's like generally about my, like whenever I see like masc or like men or meet them and I go, wow, like you're so tall and you have such nice fucking hands. And I have little baby hands. They're so tiny and small. And your hands are so big and nice. And like, they're like veiny and they got like rings on. And like, it makes me like, literally it like makes my brain go crazy. Because I'm like, I want to look like you. I want to like be able to exist in a world where people see me and I like look at me like I look at you. But I also think it's about like it was kind of also like like falls in line of like people who I've had crushes on, where I've been like, wow, like you're so beautiful and like amazing, and I feel this like envy towards that and wanting to exist in the way that you exist, because I feel like I don't exist in the way you exist, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Do you ever get gender envy for like fictional characters?
Oh, all the time, literally all the time. It's also that thing where I get really attached to characters like really quick and relate to them. Oh my god, this is gonna send me on like a spiel where I'm like, I don't know if you should put this in the podcast, because it's just me like getting like doing the like hyperfixation thing where I'm like, let me talk about this character that's my comfort character that I'm currently hyperfixating on. It's fine. Also, it's that trans thing where like literally growing up, I only did that with male characters, literally only male characters. I would see them and be like, I relate to you, I connect with you, I'm like possessive of you. Like I didn't care about female characters whatsoever. I was like, couldn't care less.
That's what screwed me over with my art, is because I never drew female characters, because I always wanted to be the male ones, and I don't know how to draw any female anime characters.
Okay,
I was gonna ask about your EP that's coming.
Yes. So hopefully it is coming out in January. It's currently in the period where people are like, when's your music come out? And my friend Jack, not Jack Antonoff, my friend Jack, because Jack Antonoff is Taylor's producer. So we don't have the same producer. I wish. Anyways, so my friend Jack is doing my like production, and I went in June to record. So I went and did the guitar and the vocals in June, and it's currently just still in production and been like kind of pushed back because he's been like busy and doing work and stuff. And that's what happens when you're collaboratively just like working on a project and also balancing like real life. So hopefully it's coming out in January. I don't have like a official date yet. Once I do, I will announce it as soon as I know. So it's currently in production, but I wrote most of the songs. Peach was the only song that I didn't write during quarantine. And so the EP is kind of just like an ode to my mental state in quarantine, which was very much like I wrote songs either about like fantasizing about having connection with people, because I was so like, it was so isolating, and I was very much like being like, wow, I miss like being able to go out and meet people and like experience things in person, because I'm a very like in-person kind of person. I like to have like physical connection to people in like the same physical space. So like the songs are either like me fantasizing or really deep in like the fantasy of like daydreaming about like people and like crushes and like that sort of stuff, or it's also kind of about like crushes that I had during the pandemic, to be as vague as humanly possible, because I am an oversharer. And for like people, when I write songs about people, I'm always like, let me be as vague as possible when talking about these things in case they hear it. But yeah, so it's very much like the way I would explain it is it's like a very gay, like almost like summery, which is weird because I'm releasing it in winter. I think I said it was like the gayest, horniest EP of the summer when I was recording it, because that was the vibe. It's very like yearny, and like all of the songs are incredibly just like, wow, I wish that you were here with me so that we could experience each other in person and be gay. And that's not a very eloquent way of explaining it. I'm like, I wish I was more flowery with my wording of that, but that's basically what my EP is, for me at least, is very yearny and daydreamy. And I have a song that EP is called Meet Me in the Orchard, by the way. I do have the title for it. I think I've announced that. So if not, now people know it's called Meet Me in the Orchard. And I close out the EP with a lyric that is like talking about like, it's brown eyes, brown hair, laughs like fresh air, and I've been trapped inside my room all year. And it's very much like a wrap up of like my like quarantine, like infatuation and like fantasizing, and how like infatuation one like holding on to like fantasies kind of like help, like, and like one dreaming about like what life would be like and like relationships could be like after quarantine kind of like held me through, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
We love the yearny gay vibes.
Yeah, it's like yearny gay, a little horny, a little like
The
daydreamy. Yeah. Yeah.
Boyfriend.
Literally, that's what it was. It was me being like, I really want to be with a man, and being like, well, there are no men in my vicinity of my life. So yeah. Classic, that gay struggle.
Honestly, yeah.
You know how hard it is to actually get a boyfriend? It's like surprisingly hard to get a boyfriend. I feel like it's harder to get a boyfriend than to like just get a partner, get a girlfriend for me. I don't know why. It's just like, where are the men? Where are the men?
What?
There's something about, like, at least in LA, it's like if you know like a handful of gay people, you know all the gay people in like the area.
Yeah,
so,
it's
like,
the same
you
in Portland.
Can't date any of them
because they've all dated everybody that you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just like, well, do you do a long distance relationship or
Literally me. And also like not everybody in Portland, but like the majority of queer people in Portland are either like non-monogamous, polyamorous, or open. So we're also like literally like it's like impossible to not all be involved with each other. Yeah, it's very funny.
So that brings us to our last question, which is like, do you just want to share anything? Like, do you have anything that you haven't talked about you want to talk about? Or
I don't know. I love talking about music. I love talking about my music. It makes me so happy. I feel like being trans, one of the things that like I think has switched for me, because like I wrote music before I came out as a trans man, and writing music after I came out as a trans man is like, I feel like I used to write a lot of songs for other people, but after I came out, I started kind of writing more music for myself. Like Peach, that was a song I wrote for myself, which was like the first song I'd written, I think, ever that wasn't about another human being. That was just like about me and my experience in life. And so it's interesting to see kind of like my personal growth of like, instead of centering other people when I make my art, like centering myself in that. And like, I feel like that's kind of like when there was like with my transition, my music kind of transitioned in that way too, which was really cool.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I want to share. You can follow me online if people want to follow me online.
Yeah, we got your stuff.
You all might.
Patreon. We did not mention your Patreon. But
that's okay. I haven't used my Patreon in a hot sec because I work a job now and I have no time to do Patreon anymore. Yeah. I'm like, my TikTok, my Instagram, and then I have a SoundCloud, and I have a Bandcamp, and I'm on all streaming platforms, but I mostly post on my like Instagram and my TikTok store. I'm most active.
All right, guys, that's all for us today. We're out of time. You can go ahead and find Baz at xmoonbxy. Again, B spelled with an X in place of the O, on Instagram, by the way. And TikTok, it's just Princess X Boy, per usual. Go ahead and check his stuff out. And then you can find us on social media at into_the studio on Instagram, and at into the studio on Twitter.
Yay. Bye.
Bye.
His voice is like the ocean, so powerful, so dangerous. Just say a few words and it makes you go delirious. And I would give anything to be like him.